This is the GL19R, and while Fenix is known for making EDC flashlights, this is one of their first purpose-built weapon lights. We're going to test it out and see if it lives up to the reputation. Alright, I'm going to skip the typical unboxing and simply show you the box and everything that was inside. So there you go. Moving along, since this is a weapon light, let's see how easy it is to install on one. Okay, so let's attach this onto a pistol and see how well it functions. Got a Glock 19 here, probably one of the most common handguns in America. And of course, let's just make a safety check here. There's no magazine in the handle and no rounds in the chamber, so this is safe to handle. And attaching it is fairly simple. We just unlatch the side of the weapon light here, the flashlight, and we attach it. And this is has the default Glock block in there. And latch it down, and it feels pretty darn secure. It's got your activation levers or buttons on the side, so you can either tap it to turn it on either side. So you can either use your support hand or your primary, but of course I would prefer using my support hand and finger so that I have my primary available to go onto the trigger. But again, turn it on, constant, turn it off, and you can have momentary by keeping it pressed down and letting off. Also, you can change your brightness settings by pressing down on one and tapping on the other, so we'll try that. On, tap, 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 there you go. And there's also a strobe mode, so when you have it on constant, you can press down on either of the levers and it will go into strobe. Now, some of you may not like strobe, especially those who are working in a team situation. Strobes can be problematic, so I don't think there's a way to lock that out. If there is, I did not see it in the documentation, but if there's a way to do that, please let me know in the comments. But otherwise, it doesn't worry me too much about accidentally putting the strobe on, but for some of you that may be an issue. It does require a bit of effort, because if you press the other one while you have it on momentary on, not an issue. It's only when you have it on and you press down on it again. I suppose in a high stress situation where you were having it constant on and you had intended to turn it off and you kept your finger on it pressed, yeah, perhaps. So just something to be mindful of there. But I didn't have any issues with reaching for your activation button relative to its position on the rail, so that's good. All right, so let's turn this off and let's see how well this fits on a compact pistol. Okay, we have a Walther P22 here, and compact pistols are different sizes and shapes, and it's always a little bit problematic, but we'll just see if this can fit a compact pistol. And no, it just does not reach far enough. Alright, so I'm sure some of you are going to be asking, how does this weapon light, the GL19, compare against other weapon lights? Well, I happen to have three of the most common weapon lights brands out there. I've got our Surefire X300 here, a Streamlight TLR1HL, and a Balder Pro from Olight, and they're roughly arranged in that price from the most expensive to the least expensive here. And the Fenix GL19 falls right at the bottom. It is the least expensive of these four, and as you can see, also the smallest by a large degree. The longest being, of course, the Surefire here. In fact, let's see here, just to compare. Look at how far this sticks out. This is almost 2 inches past the barrel, so this is a rather long tube at the front here, and it's almost twice as long as the Surefire. So that just tells you, there you go. There's a big difference right there. In terms of light output, actually, surprisingly enough, the Fenix probably outputs the most of these four, at least in terms. Well, let's even just look at in terms of its stated lumen output. This has a manufacturer stated lumen output of 1200 lumens. The Boulder Pro, I believe, has 1350. So on paper, the Boulder Pro has a higher lumen output, and both the Streamlight and the Surefire have a lumen output of 1000. But as we saw in the testing, this actually put out 1800 lumens in turbo mode. So I would say at least this is comparable to the Boulder Pro. So of course the Boulder Pro also has a laser built in and is rechargeable through magnetic. So I mean, there's differences in terms of feature sets as well. The controls are also very different. This has a push forward only, and you know, the control schemes are very different with all four brands. But in terms of just physical differences, well, there you go. Weight wise, they're roughly about the same. The GL10 is a little bit lighter, but you know, just a few ounces. The other big question I'm sure some of you may have is, will it fit in a holster? Well, I don't know. I don't know what holster you have, so I really can't tell you. There are so many holsters out there. It's just impossible for me to tell you whether or not this will fit in your holster. All I can tell you is in this grand sampling of one holster, this Safariland-esque holster here is made to fit a well, for sure it'll fit a TLR HL1. So I can even show you that. Okay, there you go. Fits in there, no problem. Will it fit the smaller GL19? Very likely, but let's find out. Okay. Yeah, no problem. And there's no wobble inside there, so yeah, it fits quite nicely, and you know, at least in this holster. So there you go. Okay, let's start testing it out. Okay, so we've got my handy dandy NASA designed highly scientific lumen rig here. There we go. Turbo mode. Place that, oops. Place that on there. Get all that light bouncing around. And let's just get a measurement here. Even though this is dropping, our initial reading was about 470. And we'll even guess, you know what? Even if we'll do 460, because it's dropping a little bit. Let's just say 460. 460, by my calibration, is still 1840 lumens. So this thing is outputting in turbo mode more than it claims. The manufacturer claims a turbo mode of 1200 lumens. So yeah, Fenix is overperforming. So that's great. All right, we have the Fenix on here, and this is in high mode. And let's get it on low mode. There we go. In low mode, we can see a little more clearly the shape and size of the hotspot, which I'm estimating to be about 4 feet wide. That door is a little bit over 3 feet wide. So yeah, I'd say about 4 feet wide, this hotspot. It is a definitive hotspot, but there is quite a bit of a splash and flood on here. So let's get it on high again. There we go. Okay, we've got the Fenix here. I'm going to turn this on. This is on high here. We've got our avocado tree here on the left, which is about 15-20 feet away. We have that wall there, which is 50 feet away, and pine tree up the hill there is about 60 feet away, and the telephone pole back there is 120 feet away, and this easily throws out to that distance. So yeah, this is pretty bright. Industry standard drop tests are from 1 meter or 3 feet. I'm going to drop it from 6 feet twice onto rocks and dirt, so we'll see if it still works. The GL19 is IPX68 rated. The second number, the 8, means that it is waterproof enough that it can be fully submerged in water. So we're going to test its runtime while the unit is in turbo mode in this pitcher of water. The unit started to dim at about 22 minutes and completely shut off after 35. I pulled it out of the water, shook it dry, and found no water had gotten in, and I was able to get it to turn on momentarily. So I gave it a full recharge and continued testing. And finally, I took it out to the range to test it under live fire. I tested with a Glock 19 using Winchester White Box 115 grain FMJ standard velocity, and the GL19 worked as expected. It provided a nice steady bright beam without any flickering under recoil, and the controls worked flawlessly. Alright, so what do I really think about the Fenix GL19R? Well, before I get into that, I want to ask you to please hit the like and subscribe buttons right now. It just takes a second. It's absolutely free. But it makes a big deal because this is a small channel. It's not like I have tens of thousands or 100,000 subscribers. And the way the algorithm works is it really favors the bigger channels. The more popular a video is, the more likely it will play it. So by hitting the like and subscribe buttons, you're really making an outsized influence on the algorithm. So it's more likely to suggest this video to folks like you who haven't seen it. So thanks for doing that. Okay, let's start with the positives. I really like how bright this thing is. If you would have asked me before I started testing whether or not this could output 1800 lumens, I don't think I would have said that was possible or likely. The fact that, well, look how many budget flashlight makers there are out there, especially on Amazon, with names you've never heard of, that make outrageous and frankly false claims as to how many lumens their flashlights output. The fact that this thing outputs more than the manufacturer claims, good on you there, Fenix. That just says a lot about your products when you understate and outperform. What I don't particularly like about this flashlight is its controls, and this is perhaps being a bit nitpicky. I would have preferred having a little bit more resistance to the activation paddles myself, but again, with training, and you should always train with your tools, you get to know your weapon light much better. You know exactly how much pressure or how little pressure you need to activate it. So again, training would solve that issue. But what might be a deal breaker to many out there is the fact that this has a strobe mode, and it's activated by turning it on and then mashing down the control button to turn it on. But the fact that it exists on a weapon light is a deal breaker for many of you out there. So I can totally understand where you're coming from. Personally, I like having a strobe option. The Fenix could have fixed this by simply having some sort of activation mechanism or deactivation mechanism to lock out the strobe. There's nothing in their literature about this. If you happen to know the secret key combinations to do that, please leave me a comment and let us know how to do that. But again, that's personal preference as to whether or not you want a weapon light with or without a strobe. But I think one thing all of us could get behind is how this thing is powered and recharged. It just uses a standard USB-C port, and pretty much all modern phones that are coming out now are powered via USB-C, so you can just recharge this using a standard phone charging cable. You don't have to have a proprietary charging cable that you could lose potentially. So that's great. And also, it's user replaceable. The battery is user replaceable. It just uses a standard 18350 battery that you can pick up at Wally World or anywhere, whether rechargeable or not, so you can replace the power source itself. So that's great. If you're interested in picking up a Fenix GL19R, I'll include product links. An affiliate product link is found on the full written review of this product on my blog, moondogindustries.com. So please use that link. I get a little tiny commission, but every little bit helps, so I appreciate that. Anyway, I hope this video was good for you. If it was, again, please hit the like and subscribe. You be safe out there. Moondog out. Hey, I'd like to know what you thought of this video. Leave me a comment or chat with me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, MeWe, Instagram, or Locals. And if you want to see all of my videos, go to moondogindustries.com.